This is a blended malt called Without Borders. No age statement, but bottled in Scotland in 2020 by Samaroli.
Sure.
Tell me about Samaroli.
So, Silvano Samaroli was regarded as a visionary, basically, in whiskey. So he was probably described as a bottler or an importer. So he would select casks, typically from Scotland, from single malt distilleries.
60s, 70s?
Probably talking late 70s, 1980s as well. Now he was regarded as having an exceptional palate,
Yes,
an
indeed.
exceptional eye for quality. And that period of time, 70s, 80s, single malt Scotch, was a vastly different world to what we know today. It was all blends.
Yeah.
You had to be a real snob to be into your single malts. And I think Samaroli perhaps saw that as maybe an opportunity to have. I can imagine him like a kid in a sweet shop, going around all these warehouses, trying all these cask samples and thinking, that's good, that's exceptional. I'll take the exceptional one. Thanks
You're
very
right.
much.
He had a huge following. The bottlings, Samaroli bottlings, are universally reliable. They fetch huge prices at
Absolutely.
auction.
I think probably two of the most famous ones was a Bowmore distilled in 1966, known as Bowmore Bouquet, that now comfortably sells for tens of thousands.
Yes.
There was the Lafroig 1967. It was a 15-year-old, matured in sherry casks. This was a sumptuous combination of, the tropical, smoky Islay character with, simply divine sherry cask influence as well. These now sell for huge sums. Even just to taste it at a bar, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
It's interesting that this one is with a screw cap, which actually, from the stopper cork was invented in 1913, but it became more popular in the late 90s for malt whiskies. A lot of the earlier Macallans were screw about sort of early 90s.
Yes.
But then the classic malts in 1988, 89, they were put into stopper corks. So stopper corks, became kind of cool or a mark of luxury. Actually, the screw cap is a better closure.
I've had nightmares with stopper, particularly for older bottlings. You're so excited to try it. Cork splits, rips in half.
Well, yeah.
Screw caps aren't sexy, but they're functional.
No,
sure.
they are indeed. I mean, I don't really like I do. I was going to say a bottle of wine with a screw cap, but it's for cheap wine. But it's a mark of being cheap. I don't know whether this is cheap, but
no, I mean it's not the most, not in the same levels as a Bowmore 1966, but
no.
I think Samaroli, even Silvano's sadly passed away, but the company has still such a fantastic reputation for picking stunning whiskies that are full of flavour. So this is the first blended malt that I've tried from Samaroli.
Indeed.
So it'll be very, very
And I
interesting.
see here that just 1,139 bottles have been produced, which sounds a lot, but compared with a standard bottling, it's small.
Just a couple of casks worth.
And the other thing that I've just noticed here, this is very interesting. The Without Borders is the understated title, and that seems to come from a quote by Yuri Gagarin, the first astronaut, orbiting Earth in the spaceship. I saw how beautiful our planet is without borders. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, very abstract. So we try some whiskey and see if it is out of this world.
And it does look a little bit like Islay, but so we're assuming this is going to be Islay.
I think usually if it's a blended malt that is specific to one region, it would state the region. So Campbelltown Loch, for example, is a Campbelltown blended malt.
And there's a mention on Spacer on the back, so we'll see.
I'd say on the nose, we're definitely in Islay. Where we've got 1 foot in Islay.
Yeah,
at least.
we've certainly got 1 foot in Islay. And young Islay.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, Islay whiskies are known for being smoky and quite pungent and peaty, and that will dissipate or fade away, or
Well, with age.
with age. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I've been lucky to try, like so Ardbeg 30 or Lafroig
Yeah.
30, 40, whatever, and it's
Very,
a different,
very mild. I know.
very
I know.
different type of dram. This is still quite potent.
This is It's quite coarse.
Yeah, it's bottled at 45%. This one, so it will have a bit of punch to it.
So the smokiness is barbecue. Both barbecue and also
for me, it's quite almost like a fishy smoke, kind of herring and kippers and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I find, obviously, for this one, we don't know that it's 100% Islay malt components. Are we picking anything else up apart from the smoke?
Carbolic.
Okay.
So that's the medicinal phenols. It's very interesting. It is very Islay. Looking at it blind on the nose, I would say Islay.
Yeah, not a breakfast whiskey. I would suggest.
An out of doors whiskey.
Yes, yeah. Say bonfires on the beach and all that shenanigans. Yeah, loads of.
It's quite young. It's smoked pork, something like that. A smoky bacon crisps, possibly.
Okay. Yeah. Is it a pleasant nose? Are you enjoying it?
No, it's not mellow. It's quite.
Feels like it's
rough.
trying quite hard.
But there again, if for smokeheads, people who really like the impact, as you're saying, as it gets older, it dissipates the smokiness. So this, I think, will deliver it delivers on the nose and will deliver in the mouth.
Perfect. Yeah, should we have a taste and see what comes through?
Sweet, very slightly salty, maritime, big smoke in the back, but very nice actually.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like an Ardbeg smokiness, and that it is sweet, and it's, I feel that,
I'm with you.
Kippers and stuff I mentioned before isn't as obvious on the palate. It's a lovely sweet smokiness.
Yeah, but it's like young. I mean, Ardbeg tends to be quite young.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, not Ugadal, but many of the other expressions tend to be, seems to me tend to be quite young.
Yep.
And that delivers the full impact.
Yep.
And so yes, it's certainly led by Islay whiskies. There is a mention on the back about Speyside, and that might have added the sweetness. But then, actually, a lot of these Islay whiskies are really quite sweet to start with before they deliver the smoke in the back of the palate.
Yep. I think for anybody who reads a label and sees a mention of Speyside and Islay, and they're hoping for more of the latter than the former, are going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It is for me, it's very Islay centric. I think any Speyside influence is just getting completely overwhelmed.
It is
By that smokiness. Yeah, so adding water to a smoky whiskey, what does this do usually? Does it bring out other aromas?
Can do. We'll see. Or suppress, and I think, and actually, in this case, it's suppressed.
Okay.
It's not as pungent. It's less smoky and more maritime.
Definitely dials down the intensity, doesn't it? With even just a couple of drops.
It does. But in the mouth, not quite so sweet. And not quite so salty. I would drink it straight.
I think it's
For enjoyment.
more approachable with water, but I think, I feel like this is a whiskey that you would, you almost have to be in the mood for. And if you're in the mood for a big hitter, a big smoky dram, you would want it at the full 45%.
And I think it is an outdoor dram. You know, it's a stormy day in a small boat fishing for mackerel. You know, and stalking on the hill. You know, resting between stalks, and again with the mist swirling around. You know, and the elemental. It's an elemental, as the best of Islay is sort of elemental dram.
Yeah, no, it's such a.
It's a very
smoky whiskies
nice
are so evocative, aren't they? I think they do need a time and a place. And I say you do have to be in the mood for it sometimes, because there's a lot to take in. There's a lot to dissect, which can be a good thing if you want to take your time with your whiskey. But yeah, if you're looking for a nice, pleasant sipper, you know, Johnny Walker Black might be.
Well, there we are. And that's got that little whiff of smoke in the tail.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
is delicious.
But
I told you my story. I think that about going into the Scotch Arts Club with one of my mentors, Sheila Birtles, who was described as the nose of noses, and we ran into a very elderly gentleman, Judge Jock Cameron, born in 1900, and I introduced Sheila as the nose of noses. And he said, "Whiskey?" He said, "You're an expert in whiskey." I said, "Yes, indeed." Well, he said, "My father," he said, "he would never have these Islay whiskies in the house. What do you think of that?" We both said, "Well, why on earth? Don't misunderstand me," he said. "He would have them in the cellar, but not in the drawing room or in the dining room. Islay whiskies were for drinking out of doors."
Yeah.
And isn't that interesting? You see, and that's coming from a man, and talking about his father. So we're peering back into the 19th century, and whether that was the given wisdom amongst sort of the gentry of that time, that it was really, you'd fill your hip flask. And when you were going fishing or to the races or whatever.
Yeah, even out in the golf course.
Yeah,
or whatever.
on the golf course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really, it's a big whiskey, this one. But it's very good.
It's a classic example. It sums up Islay whiskies. It really does. It hasn't got the depth of Bowmore or Lagavulin. It's certainly more on the Kalila Islay spectrum. But nevertheless, it's a beautiful demonstration of
absolutely. Existing fans of Islay single malt
will love it.
Will love this for sure.
And others this would be a great introduction to the overall.
Yep. And for those who hate smoky whiskey, will hate this.
They probably will.
Avoid it at all costs. No, a great one to try, and a new one for me, and it's
and for me,
great stuff.
Terrific.
Cool. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for introducing me.